Hello guys, this is Sudarsha the Starshine Star. How are all of you doing? I hope you're doing very, very well indeed. It is a beautiful Thursday. It is September 11th, 2025. I begin all of my clips with the 3 opening prayers, which are in Sanskrit and Telugu, and they're short. This is to bless, uplift, purify, and protect you, me, and this clip. They are the Guru Mantra, the Ganesha Mantra, and the Gayatri Mantra. But first, I want to I command on the sacred, holy, divine blood of Jesus the Christ, Yeshua, to flow over all of us and all of our beloveds, all of our human beloveds, all of our animal beloveds, to flow over this social media of mine and all my social media accounts, to flow over all of your social media accounts and all the ways that you express truth, light, love, purity, power, and justice. Jesus the Christ, I ask that you send your healing presence now to all of us. And please cast out the spirit of pain. Please cast out the spirit of fear. Cast out all satanics, all satanic attachments. Cast out all demonics, all demonic attachments. Cast out all negativity, negative memories, negative karmas, negative thought, words, and deeds. Cast out shame and blame. Thank you so much, Yeshua. Thank you so much, Jesus. Please heal the wounds in our soul. Thank you, Jesus. We receive your healing presence and your blessings. I call upon Mother Mary to also be ever more clearly and firmly and beautifully with us here in this eternal moment, with your beautiful, lovely, unconditional, loving, pure, yet fierce divine mother's heart, and your welcoming embrace for all of us. Thank you so much, Mother Mary. Thank you, Jesus the Christ. Amen. Swaha. And so it is. Now for the prayers. Om, Om, Om Guru Brahma Guru Vishnu Guru Devo Maheshwaraha Guru Sakshat Parabrahmam Tasmahi Sri Guru Vena Namaha Om Suklam Bhadrataram Vishnum Sishivarnam Chatobhujam Prasanavaranam Dhyaye Sarva Vignopashante Om Bhur Suvah Tat Savitur Varenyam Bhago Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yonaha Prachodayat Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Wonderful. Well, I like to give namaste and honor to the sanctity of this day, 9/11, in my country, America. I debated today whether I was going to again tell my story. I was there in 9/11 in New York City. I was going to school. I have a very interesting experience about all of it. I've talked about it before, but I just didn't feel to do it again today. I give all of my pranams and my huge love and blessings to all the souls who were unalived on that day, and all of their beloveds, all of their family members, all the peoples affected, all the firefighters, paramedics, all the emergency care workers, all the police force that were there helping, and all the people that did goodly and godly acts involving that and caretaking the peoples around that for so many months after that. Thank you so much for that. I really give all of my love and thanks for all of that. But I don't feel to tell my story about that again today. For those of you that have not, I have a YouTube channel, if you're listening to this on my YouTube, called It's the Dazzling of the Light, or just go to YouTube and type in at Sudarshana Starshine Star to access my, I think it's 266 podcasts there now on a variety of topics. And why not join my YouTube? It's free. Hey, please remember to like, share, and subscribe as well. If you do like the content, I really appreciate you actually liking it. Thank you so much. Well, as I was saying, if you have been listening to my podcast on my YouTube channel or in other places where I publish this for a while, you've probably heard me say a few times that I don't really care about being right. I'm not interested in gilding my name and underscoring it. I care about truth. I really care about truth. Of course, I want to keep my reputation untarnished, because what's the point of me having a platform, having a voice, wanting to share news, point of view, my take on things, ancient Vedic knowledge, as well as real history, as opposed to the fake history that we've all been indoctrinated with in this earth realm? What's the point of me doing that if I just have a tarnished reputation and if I'm known to be like a liar, that doesn't work either. So I do my best to keep my word clean. And like I say all the time, if I make an error, if I say something, and I have done, I will, as soon as possible, claim that I've made error, do my best to rectify it. If I gave some information that needed to be fleshed out more, I will do that. If I gave some information or said something that needed to be retracted, I do that. I really care about truth. So what I want to say is that very early this morning, let me backtrack a little bit. Yesterday, right before I made, I was making, which you can see some clips about Charlie Kirk and different things, a short and a clip about Charlie Kirk's unaliving yesterday on my YouTube channel. And right before I was doing that, I didn't have much time, but I came home and I I was lighting a lot of candles before my altar, and I did just kind of a quick meditation and prayer. I was asking the divine, because it was right when the news hit and the status of Charlie was unknown, what had really happened to him. It hadn't been confirmed yet. The news that he was unalived. So I did a quick check-in after I lit candles, and I was checking in and did a quick prayer, and I was just asking, will Charlie be all right? And as I said that, I was thinking, oh gosh, even if he's still in his body, from what I'd heard of what had happened, he could still have something like paralysis or not be able to speak or something like that. So I was just asking in a quick way, but I was like asking the divine, please, is he going to be all right? Will he recuperate from whatever, and will he be fine? And the answer I got back was like a really firm yes, like it was like a yes feeling. So I felt very happy about that. And I also took the time, I have a family member who's in some difficulty right now. So I was asking about, also about the status of my beloved family member at the same time. And I got good news about that. Yes. I was like, oh, excellent. I felt very peaceful, that feeling, just very peaceful, very just calm and everything. And then not long after that, the news was coming out, confirmed that Charlie Kirk was unalived. So I was like, wait a minute, here's my error. At that moment, what I did was I just thought, and this is like mind thinking as opposed to inner discernment or taking the time to meditate again or going within and asking more questions and getting more clarity. I just kind of used my mind, and that was my error at that point, because I just thought, and these were my thoughts. I thought, I guess what that means is like, the divine giving me the feeling and the sign that all would be well with Charlie really meant that, of course, all is always well with anyone, because even when we drop our body, we're still very well. We are eternal sparks of Mother, Father, God. We don't, we're actually not really born and not really die. It's just like a human play here, or if we're coming from other realms, where it's a play of those realms. of material life. So I thought, well, I guess that's what that meant. So that was my thinking. I didn't, again, like go into silence or go into meditation or check in and ask further questions like, why am I getting this contradiction between what the news is saying and what I had received from the divine? So that was my error, because then I got caught in the emotion of it. I was just really feeling so sad about Charlie Kirk's wife, Erica, and the children, the young children. I was just like, oh my goodness. And why I'm saying this is leading to something, and what I'm going to say is going to be very shocking to, I can think almost everyone, but it's fine. I don't care. I have to put the truth out. I have to say things that I know, even if it's shocking, because I know that the truth can be very, very shocking. It often truly is. Like I said, if you listen to the clips that I put out yesterday about Charlie Kirk, I had mentioned, because it was so unusual, I had said it was a long time since I had really watched something of his, and it was just like on September 9th that something was coming across my feed, and it was him at his event at Washington State University on September 9th talking to some students there. So it was so strange because I didn't go looking for it, and I just watched it. I watched like a big chunk of it, and I was thinking, gosh, I haven't really seen Charlie Kirk in depth for a long time, and I really liked the way he was handling the conversations and the students and everything, and I was marveling at his brilliance. Like, wow, okay. And then, of course, September 10th, yesterday, the next day, it was like, heard about his unaliving at Utah Valley State University. So, my point in saying that, it was like, because of emotion and because I just didn't take the time. I didn't like excuse myself from my own thinking and drop into something which I can rely on, which is my inner discernment. And not asking more questions of the divine within me, like we all have that ability to do, and to meditate on it. I was kind of blocking out, like it's been many years. I used to call out Charlie Kirk, like I did with Candace Owens and some different people, as being controlled opposition, because many things that I saw several years ago, which are too many things to list, was just giving all the signs of controlled opposition. Means people that, it doesn't have to be a person, but generally it's filtered through like media sources and people, or we can say people that have followings, or influencers, or journalists, things like that. People that control opposition is when, or like my own stepfather, whom I've talked about, the most famous shaman in the world, Don Miguel Ruiz, author of his most famous book, The Four Agreements, who is a Luciferian, that I only found out fully and completely, like I said, on February 2nd, 2019. But, and I've posted about that. You can look down at my videos if you're curious to hear more about that. It's calling something like my stepfather's the most famous shaman on the earth, and you can hear more of that story, which I'm not going to go into now. But yes, my stepfather was, a master at controlled opposition. Controlled opposition is when 90% of the time you give pretty good truth. You communicate things that are truthful, or you behave in a way that is, very likable, very lovable, very intelligent, or tapped in, like when they say like tuned in, tapped in, turned on, and you can be very inspiring to people, and they can say, yes, I know that's true, or yeah, I had that experience, or yes, I'm going check on everything that you're saying. But in control opposition, by doing that, people that are espousing that actually have an agenda to get people's trust, to hook them. And so people let their guards down. And it doesn't have to be a fast process. It can be a process like my stepfather engaged in, it's like a life agenda for many years. But you win people over, and you generally will then climb the ranks and get like more favor, more power, a bigger platform in life, whether you're an actual politician or, you're on the television and mainstream media, or you're live streaming with what looks like independent journalism, or you write a lot of books, or like Charlie Kirk had his own Turning Point platform. But the agenda is there to gain the trust of people so that when you deliver what I call the poison pill, which is like the 10%, 90% truth, the 10% is the real agenda, the poison pill, as I call it, which you're really like INJECTED with, even though I'm not talking about a literal one of those, but I have to spell it because that word will lead to things that causes trouble on social media. So I'm not going to say that word, but I'm just meaning metaphorically that you receive that lie. You receive that darkness. You receive that, whether it's something that will cause you to then question everything in your life. So you get so confused and you lose your faith in God. You lose your faith in so many things, and you're just adrift and vulnerable and open for even more for indoctrination. You're open even more for alcoholism, drug addiction, sex addiction, shopping addiction, gambling addictions, whatever kind of addictions. There's so many that exist. And you're just a weakened being. You really lose faith, like you really rarely ever check in with your inner discernment. You lose faith, if you had it before, in God or anything divine, and you just start believing darker and darker things about what you are, what other people are, what life is, what life isn't, and all of this stuff. It's very damaging. But that's the point of controlled opposition. And it's like really kind of playing the long game, because it's not something that generally happens fast. It's like a long stretched out agenda with like different guideposts to hit. It's a very Luciferian, very satanic agenda that is very much disguised. I mean, come on, 10% of this little poison, and then you've got 90% of what looks like light. It's false light, but it looks like light. And it looks like extended hands of welcome. It looks like a big hugs and comradeship and yes, I'll help you. I have something to help you with, and all of that, or, things like that. And I had just forgotten that it was just so odd. It was like an illusion playing on me that I'd forgotten that so many years ago I had seen so many things and investigated things, and that's why I wasn't really paying attention to Charlie Kirk. Now, here we go. Now let me get to something else I want to say. So this morning, very early this morning, it was just a little bit after 5 a.m., and I had just begun to I do different prayers, different mantras at different times, like early in the morning and different times of the day, and also before bed. But I had just begun to do some japa mala, some prayers on my mala. And just as I started, all the smoke alarms in my place went off. And there was no fire anywhere, and I wasn't burning any candles. I had been, asleep in bed. And then just right as I was awakened, I grabbed my mala and I began to do my early morning prayers. And it was just going off to the point where it went past when smoke alarms get set off, and it went into like when you activate like an AI system that's like, fire, fire, get out, fire, fire, and saying all these things. And I was like, holy smokes, like holy smokes. So when that first happened, I stopped my prayers. I had barely started, and I went and I investigated everything to make sure there wasn't some strange hidden fire or something going on, whether inside my place or around it or something that I was unaware of, and there was nothing. So that happened about 5 times between like about little after 5 a.m. to about 6. I don't know, I want to say 6. I wasn't looking at the time, but I would say like 6:40 maybe a.m. It went on, and it would go on for a little bit. And I was just thinking, goodness gracious, like what am I supposed to do with this, And then after the last one, about the fifth time, it stopped at about 6:40 and it didn't do it again. But what I want to share is that everything that happens in my life, I don't take it as an accident. So right when that happened and I saw there was not any physical reason for that happening, I was questioning myself, I was looking at myself like, why do I need an alarm to be going off in my home? Like, why do I need to be showing myself that? Like, what do I need to be paying attention to? Or why is there that saying, where there's smoke, where there's fire? I was like, what is it that I need to be alert about? Because automatically that's just the way I perceive things. And I was like, I know this is a message to myself, when it kept going on and going off and going on and going off, and there's no reason for it. But then it clicked in several hours later when and once again, it's just so funny. Like, I just have to laugh at this. There's a wonderful British guy named Tom Numbers, and I just have not, he has a wonderful channel, and I have just not watched any of his presentations or done anything like that for a couple of years now. I used to, and he's wonderful, but I'm very busy. I have a lot of things of my own to do, and I very much pay attention to gematria, and before I even saw his presentations years ago, I was very well aware that every single tweet that it used to be a tweet when Twitter was Twitter, not X, that President Trump has put out, every single communication that he puts out, there are no misspellings. Everything that looks like a misspelling is on purpose and always leads to comms, COMMS, as in military comms, as well as the capitalization in all of his messages. Everything that is capitalized, anons, we know to take the capital letters and we put it together and it spells a word, and it either the time and date stamps are all exactly and important whenever his messages are there, and they line up with exact time and date stamps of Q posts that began in October 2017, and they're easily verifiable. So anons know this, and we've done all of our work with that, and we've proven it to ourselves. And most of us, like myself, I'm not interested in explaining that or proving it to other people. There are people that are ready for it and they're not. And I just am way, way past the time of convincing anyone. I just don't have the energy for it or the desire. I speak, I share my truth, I show research, I discuss my life experiences, I put that out here for the public. But I'm not interested in convincing someone. If you want to argue with me, whatever, I'm just not that interested. I like questions. If you want to question me about something, I'll happily answer it if I'm able. If I'm not, I'll say I can't answer your question. Or maybe I won't want to. Like, if it's something personal that I don't feel like answering, I mean, you can ask, that doesn't mean you're always going to get the answer, but I do my best. So anyway, it was just off the cuff. I was like, oh gosh, why is Tom Numbers showing up once again in my feed? And I haven't even seen hide nor hair of him for years. I didn't even know if he was doing things still. I think of him with all the way that the UK's been on fire. Yeah, it relates to my fire alarm. Really, like, Europe's on fire and everything is just so intense and crazy. So I do think of him and just wish him well and think, gosh, it's really blown up over there. But when I saw that he came on my feed and he was just giving the most wonderful, but you have to have a lot of background to know what he's talking about. You have to know what gematria is. You have to know how he's called Tom Numbers because he decodes everything through numbers. Yes, life speaks to us through mathematics, through numbers. Everything can be broken down into numbers. Everything is frequency, vibration, and energy. And frequency and vibration, you can measure it as per how many beats per second that anything is vibrating at, whether it's a flower or a person or anything. You can measure everything and reduce it to maths, and you can get a lot of information that way from life, from the universe. So, and the white hats, President Trump and the white hats, the white hat global, or I call them Earth Realm Military Alliance, and all the good guys, the white hats that are officially involved on very high levels and mid-levels in fighting, battling, and taking down the satanic cabal, Illuminati, Khazarian Mafia, Jesuits, Freemasons, Club of Rome, Bilderberger, the Royals, are corrupted, what had corrupted my country, America. Our government was so corrupted, like majority of it, and all the politicians and people in Congress and Senate and all of that. They've been doing all this for many years, as well as cleaning out the DUMBs, the deep underground military bases that are everywhere in the world underneath our feet, clearing out the creatures that are in there, rescuing the babies and the children that were in there, then destroying and then flooding out these places. And I've spoken about that, how so many earthquakes, you'll know they're not organic earthquakes when they only consistently go 10 meters all the way through. You can look at something, a site called a Raspberry Shake. I hope it's still up. I used to look at it years ago and I referred to it, so I hope it's still up, where you can see anywhere in the world. You can look very specifically at all the details of any what's called an earthquake. You can see everything about it. And you can see the depth of it and when it started, when it stopped, where it went. You can see everything. And it's organic earthquakes do not only go consistently throughout the entire fault line or whatever, only 10 meters. They don't, 10 kilometers, not 10 meters, 10 kilometers. They don't do that. And also the shaking that comes from, it's the white hats that are blowing these domes and underground cities, and then they flood them to just take them out. And there are no aftershocks. So organic earthquakes have pre-tremors, they have aftershocks, and the white hat instigated removal of these domes and these underground cities. When they take them out, it looks like an earthquake because everything's shaking, but then there are no aftershocks. And you can check that out for yourself. This is easily verifiable, just what I shared with you. All right. And I also recommend, as I have done several times, Gene Decode. Look up that name, that man. He's a military. He was a position of command on a submarine for, many, many years. He also has like a genius brain. He's an unusual guy. He knows a lot of stuff, but look up Gene Decode specifically if you don't know about DUMBs. You want to find out latitude and longitude of DUMBs, like very specific details and areas. You don't just want to hear someone talk about it. You want to see some proofs. Go use Bing Brave browser, not Wikipedia or Google. Those are so corrupted. Use an independent browser and then go to sites like rumble.com or bitshoot.com. There's still a lot of good stuff on YouTube, which is why I'm on here. Or there's also HugeTube, which is spelled UGE. Yeah, HugeTube has some things. Or like Gab or different sites, and you can find things about Gene Decode. I think he still has a site that he has with another gentleman that's very that loves Jesus and is always teaching about Jesus and the Bible and things. And I think it's called Blessed to Teach. I think it's still called Blessed to Teach, that an actual website. So I encourage you guys, if you're curious, go look at that. And you'll get so much information and so many proofs and so many cool things to look at and visuals and everything else. And you won't know what to do with yourself. It's quite a rabbit hole. So my point was that when Tom Numbers thing came up and I was looking at it, Tom Numbers, he was speaking about what just happened with Charlie Kirk yesterday. And then it just, right as he started speaking, it just snapped for me. I was like, oh, snap. Literally. I was like, this is why I was getting these alarms, like waking me up, like wake up, these alarms. Because I was getting lost in the emotion and I was forgetting to really use my discernment, and also the ultimate discernment, which is my inner discernment, which is divinity within me that lives within outside of all of us. We all have that. But it can be covered and it can be shut down, and we can trick ourselves or fall for tricks, fall for some negative illusions and trickiness and confusions, but which is so easy to do nowadays, honestly. Anyway, I was like, oh, snap. This is why when I asked the divine and I was like, is Charlie Kirk going to be okay? Is everything fine with that? And I got like a resounding, glorious yes with like a lot of peace and that kind of divine flowing feeling. And I was like, oh, wonderful. Because honestly, it seems very much like this Charlie, and I talk about this a lot on my clips if you haven't heard me, was a 2.0. That means it wasn't the original Charlie Kirk. Those are called 1.0s. And I talk so often about how so many, over 200,000 beings that we see playing out on the world stage are wearing hyperskin face masks with voice box technology. Yes, and there are also a lot of beings that we saw like JoJo, like with what people thought was Joe Biden, that was an actor, a face mask actor much of the time. And then in the later stages, it was just so much CGI. And so much CGI. Anyway, and I was like, oh my goodness. So there's so much, and I just can't go into any more detail of it here on YouTube, on my channel, about what I'm saying. But this is another white hat operation. This is something that's really, yes, this whole thing is very intricate, as it would be when the whole world has been infected by a satanic cabal that has ruled over this world, was allowed to rule for thousands of years and subjugate humanity. It's not just like a 1, 2, 3 snap of the fingers to undo all of this, even though this is divine will. It's been divinely prophesied. And this is the end times for the evils and their minions, not for humanity. We're going to have a glorious uprising, which is in its beginning stages right now. But it's hard going, it's a great cleansing. So I was like, oh my goodness, when Tom Numbers was sharing out some of the codes, and I was like, oh my goodness. One thing I will say though, when I saw President Trump's, one of his messages yesterday about Charlie Kirk, I did catch my attention when he said that Charlie Kirk was a good man, top to bottom. That really caught my attention, and I knew he was saying something. I was like, top to bottom? I mean, you don't just generally describe a person that way. I was like, well, what is he trying to say here? I knew he was giving some calms, but I just was not clear about what that was. I was like, I know that's a calm, but I wasn't clear what it meant. What does that mean? Yeah, that was a calm. And so this operation, which is so tricky, so intricate, has so many levels. And as you can see, it's very effective because not only is it really striking in the hearts of so many Americans right now, they're feeling more energized, more patriotic. They want to speak up. They want to stand up for what's goodly and godly and for common sense, and to not be so apathetic or wishy-washy about what is satanic, what is evil, what is hurting humanity and our children and our all of our systems. We have to stand. And that doesn't mean being violent. That's not what I'm saying at all. There's a huge difference in having the courage and conviction of standing rather than bowing before and being subjugated before something, or just lying in the gutter, like, walk all over me, evil, go ahead, do it, because I'm helpless. I'm not talking about being violent, and I do not espouse that. But right now, because of this, it's such a level of brilliance, because so many radical leftists and so many Satanists and Luciferians and their structure, they are getting caught. And so many were getting fired today, whether they're in educational systems or news media. They're getting fired immediately for saying very evil things about Charlie Kirk, which would be about anyone that you would say about any human that seemed to be unalived brutally. And then you're celebrating that. You're happy about it. You're talking about that. No. So it's like really drawing out the vipers and the minions, and they're receiving, they're getting fired, and they're being removed from their positions of influence and power. And it's going to keep on going. But also, too, it's such a... it took place in Utah. And this is what Tom Numbers was bringing up. And I was like, that's a very good point. He was also saying many different things about how the place, because nothing is an accident. When the white hats do something, everything about it is on purpose. And it's going to lead to more and more exposure of the corruption in the Mormon church. as I've talked about several times in the past, all of our religions and everything have been corrupted. That doesn't mean that the people are bad. Yes, there are bad beings, as we can see when things are radicalized. Yes, I'm not going to go into say all the names. You know it here. I've talked about it so often. Doesn't mean people are bad if they say, wait a minute, why are you talking about my religion? That's my faith. There are many paths to God, but you know the correct path by its fruits. So I'm not going to name out names, but it doesn't matter what you call a faith or a religion. If it's pretending to be goodly and godly, but it's really preaching things that are very satanic and leading you to murder and mayhem, and leading you into just worshiping false idols and giving up all your personal power as a divine spark of Mother, Father, God, and not taking responsibility for yourself and just being like a chattel and just, being slavish to something that doesn't have good fruits, but you're just telling yourself, well, look at their title. They've got to be good. They're the head of this thing, or they're the high of this thing, or whatever. I'm not going to say names in this clip. So anyway, there's so much good going on, and I just want to take this opportunity, and I'm going to leave up the clips that I put up about Charlie Kirk, because I also talked about the Irina, the 23-year-old Ukrainian refugee who was viciously taken out in Charlotte, North Carolina. I talked about different things that I want to leave up there. So I trust that the people that need to hear this will listen to this. Something will draw them to it, just like, there are no accidents in life. And the people that just, they're not ready to hear this, or they don't understand, what do you mean a white hat operation? What are you talking about, Charlie Kirk 2.0? What do you mean? And you can also look at what Erica, which Charlie Kirk's wife, could be a 2.0 as well, or, there's questions about this. But right before the event yesterday, she had I think it was just like an hour and a half before, she had quoted a psalm from the Bible about how God stands with you in dark times. And, Tom Numbers also is really a whiz at decoding a lot of films, and as we know, Hollywood was very satanic, was always very satanic, was Babylon. But there have been white hat directors, white hat writers, different things like that in certain films, and Tom Numbers is really like a genius in pointing out to some films and relating it to exactly right now, because really all the world is a stage. I mean, we are in a divine play here. So I'm going to end this by saying, because I just was looking at this, I'm like, yeah, I often tell people so often and remind them, which I knew when it came out. I just knew it automatically when I first saw Matrix, the first one. I knew that was a documentary. I was like, this is a documentary. This is not fiction. This is truth. This is what's really going on. But I wasn't able to truly relate it into my life circumstances in a personal way. But I just knew when I saw that, my inner self was like, that's a documentary. And Tom Numbers often recommends, he always talks about those Back to the Future movies, like watching, I don't know how many there were, there are a couple, like watch them all if you want to know what I'm talking about. He often, which I agree with, he says that Christopher Nolan, the director, is a white hat director. So all of Christopher Nolan's films, especially the Batman movies, are very telling, and especially right now. And Tom Numbers talked about Harvey Dent character, very specifically in relation to Charlie Kirk. And Tom Numbers also references a lot the Terminator movies, those movies, and what else does he say? Terminator movies, let's see. Terminator movies, the Back to the Future movies, Christopher Nolan's movies, and I just saw something that I've never heard of before, called F1. Have you guys heard of that? I'm going to have to go look that up and watch it, because I don't even know what that is. But someone had asked him in this post if that he could be reminded about some movies that are kind of like really foundational to watch to understand what's going on right now. Okay, these movies were from a long time ago, but what's going on right now? Okay, guys, I am sending you much love and big hugs. I close all of my clips with a closing prayer, which is in Sanskrit and Telugu. What I'm saying is God bless all beings in all worlds. Om Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Yes, peace, peace, peace. God bless you and yours. I'm sending much love and big hugs to you and yours. I'll see you when I see you, and bye-bye for now.